My, this is so nice. Why, you know, the last time I saw you, you had a ponytail and a boyfriend who combed his hair all the time.
This movie was never meant to last. Cannon slipped into theaters in 1971. Quietly, without hype, without stars the studio believed in, and without any intention of becoming important. But something strange happened. Instead of fading away like most crime films of its era, Cannon hardened over time, its rough edges turning into warnings, its flaws becoming fingerprints of truth. What looks like an old cop movie is actually a blueprint for the anti-heroes, moral rot, and quiet dread that would dominate cinema for decades. And the weirdest part is that almost none of it was planned. Number 1, Cannon was never supposed to be a movie. It started as a disposable crime outline passed around a producer's office like a napkin with half a phone number on it. The studio that briefly flirted with financing it did not even register the title. They just called it The Cop Thing. What changed everything was the lead character. The script originally centered on a lean, fast-talking detective in the Steve McQueen mold. Then casting collapsed, budgets shrank, and someone suggested rewriting the entire film around a heavier, older protagonist who moved slower but thought faster. That single decision rewired the tone of the film. Scenes became longer, dialogue got denser, violence became more deliberate. Cannon stopped being about speed and started being about pressure. That shift alienated executives who wanted a clean hit, but it electrified the small crew who stayed. They realized they were no longer making a standard crime picture. They were making something stubborn, something that refused to rush. That refusal is why Cannon feels strangely modern today. It does not beg for attention, it waits. And when it hits, it lands with weight. Number 2. The famous stillness of Cannon was not an artistic choice at first. It was a logistical problem. The production lost access to several key locations days before shooting, forcing the director to stage entire scenes in cramped interiors with almost no camera movement. Instead of fighting it, the director leaned into it. Characters were told to sit, to stop pacing, to let silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. What accidentally emerged was a visual language built on restraint. Viewers unfamiliar with the production history often assume this was a European influence or a deliberate rejection of Hollywood flash. In reality, it was survival. The crew could not move quickly, so the film learned how to think slowly. That stillness created a sense of menace that a more kinetic approach would have destroyed. Cannon does not chase danger. It lets danger walk into the room and take a seat. That is why the film feels heavier than other crime movies of the era. It is not about momentum. It is about inevitability. Number 3. Guspanda, one of the most quoted lines in Cannon, was written on set minutes before it was filmed. The original dialogue was so bland that the lead actor refused to say it. He reportedly told the director that the character would never speak that way, then sat in silence while the crew scrambled. A production assistant, not a writer, suggested a rough alternative. It was shorter, meaner, almost dismissive. The actor tried it once. The room went quiet. That improvised line ended up defining the character's entire philosophy. Critics later praised it as minimalist brilliance, unaware it came from desperation. This moment captures the soul of Cannon perfectly. The film's most iconic elements were not polished. They were cornered. Cannon thrives under pressure. Every time the movie feels brutally honest, it is because someone ran out of options and chose truth over safety. Number 4. Cannon was shot largely out of sequence, and the lead actor used that chaos to his advantage. He deliberately played the character inconsistently, adding small contradictions in mood and behavior. Some days, Cannon was gentle. Other days, he was ruthless. The director initially worried this would fracture the performance. Instead, it gave the character depth. When the footage was assembled, those contradictions read as layers rather than mistakes. Cannon felt human. Real people are not consistent. They are reactive. The editing turned what could have been a mess into a portrait of a man worn down by years of moral compromise. This is one reason the film ages so well. Modern audiences read the character as psychologically complex, even though that complexity was accidental. Cannon did not plan to be nuanced. It became nuanced because everyone involved was improvising their way through uncertainty. Number 5. The film's most uncomfortable scene was almost cut entirely, and not for the reasons you might expect. It wasn't too violent, it wasn't graphic, it wasn't shocking in the traditional sense. In fact, it was almost painfully quiet. Early test audiences sat through the sequence and whispered to each other, convinced something had gone wrong with the projector. There was no music to guide their emotions. Almost no movement either, just two characters locked in a prolonged stare, each fully aware of what was coming next, but neither breaking the tension. Studio executives panicked. Notes came back demanding some kind of score cue, a sound effect, or even a single line of dialogue to give the audience a hint that everything was under control. The director refused outright, insisting that the silence was the entire point, that the tension existed precisely because nothing was said, nothing was added, and nothing distracted the viewer from the dread simmering on screen. After endless debates, the studio finally relented, partly out of exhaustion, partly because they realized the scene actually worked. Today, that quiet moment is remembered as one of the most unsettling sequences in early 70s crime cinema, a masterclass in restraint and atmosphere. It proves something vital that many films still fail to understand. Tension does not come from noise, explosions, or frantic action. True suspense comes from withholding, from letting the audience sit in the uncomfortable space between what they know and what they fear, letting the silence speak louder than any line of dialogue ever could. Number 6. When Cannon first hit theaters, its moral ambiguity left many critics unsettled. Reviewers complained that the film was indecisive, even cowardly, because it refused to present the audience with the neat categories they expected: heroes and villains, right and wrong, good and evil. But Cannon offered none of these comforts. Instead, it presented a world where everyone compromises, where everyone sacrifices something, where no choice is free of consequence. At the time, that discomfort hurt the film commercially. Audiences wanted clear answers, and they didn't find them here. Yet, what seemed like a flaw then became the very quality that ensured the film's cultural longevity. Over the years, as trust in institutions eroded and the lines between right and wrong became less obvious, Cannon's world began to feel startlingly prescient. The moral uncertainty that once alienated viewers now resonates as honesty. The film itself never changed. Instead, the audience evolved. People learned to see nuance, to accept compromise, to understand that clarity is rare and fleeting. That slow shift in perception is what gave Cannon its unusual afterlife. It wasn't rediscovered because critics or fans suddenly saw its value. It simply waited, patient, for the world to catch up. And when it did, Cannon's reputation transformed. What was once seen as murky, confusing, or unsatisfying became a mirror for the real world, a reflection of complexity, consequence, and moral ambiguity that few films dare to hold for an entire runtime. Number 7. Several scenes in Cannon were shot on real locations that, within a decade of filming, would vanish entirely. Neighborhoods that once bustled with daily life were demolished, replaced by modern developments that erased their previous identities. Walking through these streets today, viewers might sense something subtly off. Spaces feel emptier, buildings feel stranger, and streets seem unnaturally wide. Even if audiences cannot immediately pinpoint why, the film carries an uncanny, ghostly quality, as though it is preserving something lost before our eyes. Inadvertently, Cannon became a time capsule, documenting a city on the brink of transformation, caught in the tension between decay and redevelopment. That environmental uncertainty mirrors the internal state of the protagonist, who wanders through the ruins of what he once believed in, confronting absence and loss without knowing what will take its place. The juxtaposition of a vanishing cityscape and a man in moral or emotional transition gives the film layers that were likely unintended, but profoundly affecting. As time passes, the film only grows richer because the world it captured no longer exists in reality. Locations that seem mundane now feel charged with history, memory, and longing. In this sense, Cannon does more than tell a story on screen. It preserves a moment, a feeling, and a city that have slipped irretrievably away. Watching it, audiences engage with both fiction and history, experiencing a place and an era that vanished before it could be fully understood, making the film an unintentional yet invaluable cultural artifact. Number 8. The ending of Cannon went through multiple rewrites, with each draft failing to satisfy the filmmakers. They experimented with resolutions that punished wrongdoing, rewarded virtue, or tied up loose narrative threads. Yet none captured the nuance they were searching for. What ultimately made it to the screen is a compromise, but one that feels almost unnaturally precise in its imperfection. It resolves nothing completely, punishes no one entirely, and leaves threads dangling in ways that early audiences found frustrating, even unsatisfying. Viewers expecting a traditional conclusion, closure, justice, or emotional resolution often walked away confused or disappointed. Over time, however, this very dissatisfaction became a defining feature of the film. The ending refuses the comfort of neatly packaged storytelling and instead pauses, leaving the characters in a state of suspended consequence. Cannon himself walks away, but the system, the forces, and the compromises that shaped him remain intact, unchallenged, and unaltered. The abruptness mirrors real life, where stories rarely resolve themselves perfectly, and where moral clarity is often absent. By denying catharsis, the film forces the audience to reckon with ambiguity, tension, and lingering unease. It is a cinematic decision that elevates the narrative, embedding it into memory precisely because it refuses conventional gratification. The lack of closure transforms the ending from a weakness into a strength, making Cannon resonate years later as a story about consequences, compromises, and the impossibility of tidy resolutions. In this way, the conclusion is not incomplete. It is enduring, unsettling, and deeply human. Number 9. Despite its reputation for grit and uncompromising darkness, Cannon contains moments of dry, almost cruel humor that catch viewers off guard. These were not carefully scripted jokes or overt attempts to lighten the tone. Instead, they emerged organically from the lead actor's impeccable timing and instinctive understanding of the character. He knew that humor, when deployed sparingly, could make the surrounding darkness land even harder. A single flat remark after a violent or tense moment does not undercut the impact. It intensifies it, creating a sharper emotional contrast that lingers in the mind. These flashes of dark comedy reveal Cannon's humanity without offering redemption. He is not suddenly likable or charming. He is simply navigating the world in the only way he knows how. The humor underscores his coping mechanisms, his small rebellions, and his moments of private clarity amid chaos. This subtlety is crucial because it prevents the film from sliding into sentimentality or moralizing. The audience is reminded that life and violence is often absurd in ways that defy easy interpretation. By allowing these quiet, ironic moments to exist, the film balances its relentless tension with fleeting glimpses of insight, making Cannon not just a figure of darkness, but one of complexity, resilience, and raw, unvarnished humanity. Number 10. Cannon quietly shaped an entire generation of crime filmmakers, even if few are willing to name it outright. Its influence threads through the DNA of later neo-noir, the rise of television anti-heroes, and countless stories that foreground consequence over spectacle. You can see it in characters who make morally fraught choices without fanfare, in plots that punish recklessness rather than reward style, and in worlds that feel lived in rather than staged. And yet, despite this pervasive presence, Cannon remains surprisingly under-discussed. It does not announce its significance with flashy techniques or overt statements. It does not demand attention or reverence. Like its protagonist, it works quietly, executes its purpose, and then steps aside, leaving viewers to absorb its effects almost subconsciously. That unassuming approach may be precisely why it has endured, long past the initial release period. Unlike many of its contemporaries, Cannon never sought to be iconic or trend-setting. Its triumph lies in its refusal to compromise, its refusal to lie. It captures truth in a way that feels invisible at first, but becomes increasingly apparent over time. By staying honest to its vision, Cannon carved a lasting legacy, shaping the stories and characters that followed, without ever needing to announce itself. Number 11. The Cannon run couldn't follow a traditional script, and that was intentional chaos at its finest. Scenes were rewritten in trailers, dialogue improvised on the spot, and actors often arrived not knowing what they were about to shoot that day. Hal Needham directed like a stunt show in fast forward, with cameras rolling through whatever madness emerged. Farrah Fawcett later admitted she never saw a full script, and Dom DeLuise openly confessed to making up half his lines. Dean Martin? He just said whatever came out of his mouth, smiling and pouring drinks like it was a casual Saturday afternoon. There were no safety nets, no plan, just pure trial and error until something made the crew laugh hard enough to keep. Needham sometimes had to yell, "Cut," mid-chaos, but often he let the madness ride, trusting instinct over planning. Each take felt alive because no one knew exactly what would happen. Even minor background actors improvised, and accidental collisions, misreads, and forgotten lines were embraced rather than discarded. Watching the final cut, it's obvious that the Cannonball Run worked not because it was tightly rehearsed, but because the set was a free-fall playground. The unpredictability created a unique energy, a jittery joy that only chaos can produce, and it allowed talent to shine in ways a rigid script never could. Every scene crackled with the thrill of anything could happen, and audiences felt it instantly. Number 12. By the time the credits rolled, most movies would fade to black, but Cannonball Run didn't stop there. Instead, it transitioned into a full-blown blooper reel, a highlight reel of every mistake, flubbed line, and failed stunt the crew could capture. Actors cracking up mid-scene, dropped props, mistimed entrances, all of it found its way into the film. It wasn't just funny, it was revolutionary, breaking the unspoken rule that mistakes must be hidden. Jackie Chan, who had only a few scenes, was fascinated. He saw the potential to make comedy part of action, a lesson he would carry into his own career, starting with Dragonlord in 1982. Chan learned that the bloopers, the real laughter, the human imperfections, they were storytelling tools. The Cannonball Run blurred the line between film and reality, teaching that unscripted joy could become legendary. The audacity of letting mistakes breathe created authenticity. Directors today meticulously stage bloopers or delete them entirely. Hal Needham simply let them run wild. The audience could feel the fun, the energy, the electricity that only happens when people genuinely don't know what's coming next. It also gave other actors permission to take risks, try things spontaneously, and make the film theirs. That messy brilliance became the heartbeat of the movie, proving that chaos and comedy could coexist seamlessly. Every replayed flub reinforced the feeling that this wasn't just a movie. It was an experience, a ride, a celebration of unpredictability. Number 13. The infamous jet scene was not a stunt, not a prop, not a miniature. It was a full-size Learjet, flying at low altitude down a narrow road without any permits. One take was all they got, and the FAA was unaware until the engines roared overhead. The crew risked real legal consequences, filming under radar, dodging aviation law, and trusting sheer timing. Hal Needham reportedly had to bluff officials after the fact, submitting it as a rehearsal rather than a live flight. The danger was real. One miscalculation, and someone could have been seriously hurt, or worse. Cameras captured it from multiple angles, yet the actors weren't extras. They were on location, reacting to a real jet hurtling past at full speed. The intensity added authenticity that green screen or model planes could never replicate. The scene became legendary, not for its choreography, but for its audacity. When the final film premiered, audiences had no idea it was real. Behind the curtain, the jet symbolized the Cannonball Run's philosophy: embrace risk, defy rules, and deliver spectacle at any cost. No rehearsal could prepare anyone for that moment. Number 14. Jackie Chan made his American debut in Cannonball Run, but the studio mistakenly labeled him Japanese. Chan, a proud Chinese actor, was deeply frustrated, yet he approached every scene with precision, performing high-speed stunts, martial arts maneuvers, and flips that were faster than the camera could fully capture. Some moves were cut because American censors didn't understand them. Despite this, Chan left a lasting impression, planting the seeds for his Hollywood breakthrough. He didn't just perform, he elevated every scene with physical comedy, timing, and a dedication that would define his career. His character, a gadget-equipped racer, might have been misnamed, miscast, or mislabeled, but Chan's energy could not be suppressed. Even brief sequences became lessons in efficiency, comedy, and audacity. Number 15. During a downtown Las Vegas chase, the Cannonball Run crew deliberately blurred the lines between fiction and reality. They had no official permissions for burnouts, sirens, or the staged weaponry that littered the streets. Yet Hal Needham pressed forward, knowing that genuine tension would elevate the scene. As the cameras rolled, real police units appeared, responding to what they believed was an actual criminal incident. Actors froze mid-shot, unsure how to proceed, while crew members scattered to avoid interference. Someone, likely a production assistant, shouted, "Cut!" But the scene didn't stop. The chaos simply continued, unplanned reactions feeding the camera's eye. The police initially attempted to intervene, but after a tense exchange and identification, they realized this was a legitimate film shoot. No arrests were made, only stern warnings, and the production resumed as if nothing had happened. According to reports, Needham smirked quietly from the sidelines, having orchestrated the sequence with surgical precision, pushing boundaries to capture authentic panic without crossing legal limits. The result is a chase that feels alive in a way few scripted sequences ever manage. Genuine fear, unfiltered reactions, and unpredictable events were all caught on film, infusing the scene with energy that could not have been staged. Viewers sensed the tension viscerally because the cast and crew themselves were navigating a thin line between fiction and reality, making this moment one of the most thrilling and memorable sequences in Cannonball Run history. Number 16. Dom DeLuise was never content with being just a comedic sidekick. On set, he became something larger, something untamable, Captain Chaos. Every take he approached like a live wire, ready to spark. He corpsed, broke mid-line, and dissolved into fits of laughter so genuine that they rewrote the scene in real time. No amount of preparation could contain him, and that unpredictability became his greatest contribution. Burt Reynolds, his co-star, played the perfect foil, often rolling his eyes in exaggerated frustration, which only amplified the humor. The tension between Dom's unbridled energy and Bert's mock exasperation created a rhythm that was impossible to plan, but impossible not to watch. Director Hal Needham quickly realized that perfection wasn't necessary, or even desirable. The unscripted joy that Dom brought to every moment elevated the material, transforming ordinary lines into comedic gold. Over time, Dom's laughter became more than a reaction. It became a character in itself, a pulse running through the film. It grounded the comedy in something profoundly human, the pure, uncontrollable joy of making people laugh. Imperfection was no longer a flaw. It was performance. It was narrative. It was the heartbeat of the scene. Number 17. Cannonball Run did more than entertain moviegoers. It sparked creativity across media, most notably in video games. In 1986, Japanese designer Yu Suzuki watched the film and found himself captivated, not by the plot, the prizes, or the competition, but by the pure energy of the race, the sense of freedom, and the reckless joy of speeding across open highways. That inspiration became the foundation for his iconic racing game, Outrun. Suzuki translated the film's chaotic spirit into a digital experience, crafting a world where players could feel the thrill of the chase without boundaries. The game's endlessly winding roads, sun-soaked landscapes, and gleaming red Ferrari weren't just aesthetic choices. They were direct nods to Cannonball Run's blend of humor, speed, and audacity. Every turn, every narrow escape in the game echoed the improvisational, unpredictable energy of the film, capturing the feeling of being untethered from rules or consequences. In many ways, Outrun became a new form of storytelling, one in which players could inhabit the freedom Cannonball Run celebrated on screen. The movie didn't just inspire a game, it inspired an experience, a digital thrill ride that carried the spirit of Cannonball Run into arcades and living rooms worldwide, forever linking the chaos of the film to the exhilaration of play. Number 18. Midway through Cannonball Run, there's a fleeting moment that has delighted eagle-eyed fans for decades. A cop pulls over a sleek Lamborghini, and for a split second, it looks exactly like Burt Reynolds behind the wheel. Audiences, and even members of the cast, were fooled. Freeze frame reveals the driver is actually stunt double Roy Tatum, whose uncanny resemblance to Reynolds made the switch almost seamless. What began as a practical necessity, a stunt too risky for the lead actor, evolved into a small but enduring Easter egg, rewarding attentive viewers with a hidden joke. Tatum's uncredited appearance highlights the film's playful approach to identity, doubles, and deliberate confusion. Cannonball Run thrives on chaos, not just in its storylines, but in its production, and this brief cameo perfectly encapsulates that ethos. The audience is invited to question what they see, to revel in the mix-ups and rapid-fire gags that define the film. In a way, Roy Tatum becomes a character in his own right, a ghostly Reynolds who exists just off-camera, blending reality and performance. That subtle misdirection, combined with the film's overall irreverence, underscores Cannonball Run's charm. It doesn't just tell a story, it cultivates a world where chaos, chance, and clever tricks can appear anywhere, even behind the wheel of a speeding Lamborghini. Number 19. Hal Needham, ever the risk taker, didn't just direct Cannonball Run, he lived it, sometimes literally behind the wheel. For one memorable sequence, Needham lent his own Ferrari 308 GTS to Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr., placing two Hollywood legends in a machine worth far more than the average salary at the time. There was no extra insurance, no backup cars, and certainly no safety net beyond their skill and luck. On set, the actors came perilously close to disaster multiple times, brushing against obstacles, scraping doors, and burning tires in moments of frenetic energy that could have ended in tragedy, or at least a very expensive repair bill. Yet Needham refused to pull the car from production, believing that authenticity, chaotic, unpredictable, and slightly dangerous, was worth every scraped panel. This philosophy extended beyond stunts. It permeated the entire film. Props were not static. They were active participants in the chaos, tools through which tension, humor, and danger were conveyed in real time. By letting the Ferrari and the actors exist in genuine risk, Needham blurred the line between performance and reality. The sequence's thrills aren't just cinematic, they are lived, felt, and earned. In this way, Cannonball Run became more than a comedy about speed. It became a testament to embracing unpredictability. Needham's gamble on chaos wasn't reckless. It was a deliberate strategy, one that paid off spectacularly, leaving viewers with a pulse-quickening, unforgettable experience that could never have been captured with doubles, CGI, or cautious planning. Number 20. In Hollywood, sequels usually arrive cautiously, waiting to see if the original film succeeds before committing millions to a follow-up. Cannonball Run shattered that convention entirely. Producers, intoxicated by the energy and buzz of the first movie, greenlit Cannonball Run 2 before a single cut of the original had been finalized. Scripts were incomplete, key scenes unshot, and even some stunt sequences remained in rough storyboards. The decision was audacious, fueled less by careful planning and more by sheer momentum, the charisma of the stars, and the appetite for chaos that had defined the first film. Actors were contracted before knowing the full scope of their roles. Stunt coordinators worked on sequences without fully rehearsed choreography, and the budget was stretched in anticipation rather than calculation. Every choice seemed to mimic the reckless spirit of the race itself, fast, unpredictable, and unafraid of consequences. The studio was chasing the same thrill that audiences loved, the sense that anything could happen at any moment, on screen and off. In a way, greenlighting the sequel mid-production became a meta-stunt, a reflection of Cannonball's own philosophy. Action over hesitation, excitement over caution. The gamble could have backfired, but it perfectly embodied the film's DNA, proving that sometimes speed, chaos, and instinct triumph over traditional Hollywood prudence. Cannonball Run 2 was never just a follow-up. It was an extension of the original's uncontainable energy, a reminder that in both racing and filmmaking, the ride matters more than the destination. Bonus fact. In 1989, Speed Zone hit theaters, billed as a spiritual successor to the Cannonball Run franchise, but it lacked two of the most essential ingredients, Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise. Hami Farr returned, reprising his familiar role, and the film brought in a new wave of comedic talent, including John Candy and Eugene Levy. On paper, it seemed promising, a cast of recognizable faces, outrageous stunts, and high-octane racing. Yet, once the cameras rolled, the chemistry that had made the original Cannonball Run irresistible simply wasn't there. Scenes that should have sparkled with spontaneous energy felt forced, and attempts at chaotic humor often fell flat. Unlike Cannonball, which thrived on improvisation and the unpredictable interplay between its leads, Speed Zone relied heavily on scripted gags that lacked bite. The tone wavered, switching abruptly between slapstick, parody, and action, leaving audiences unsure how to respond. Box office numbers reflected that confusion. The film performed poorly, quickly fading into obscurity. Its failure wasn't just about missing Reynolds or DeLuise. It was a reminder that the original Cannonball Run's brilliance wasn't merely about high-speed cars or outrageous stunts. It depended on timing, casting, and the intangible spark of irrepressible spirit. The right personalities, the right chemistry, and the willingness to let chaos breathe were what turned a simple road race into cinematic legend. A Speed Zone, for all its ambition, became a cautionary tale. You can copy the moves, mimic the mayhem, and even hire star power, but without the heart and instinct of the original, the magic vanishes. Today, it exists as a footnote, a curious reminder of what happens when chaos is applied without the right formula.